You know, this has been a hard review to do. If you see how the product has been for TNA for the last couple of months, we already know that they're not giving out the most greatest effort. I've seen the Sleg Daddy's review, and he really is very critical about them, and I can understand it. The way he felt about Bound for Glory, and he didn't see it, but from what he did understand, and if you see my Bound for Glory review, you see I'm botching because this is upsetting for me. I felt that this was just a glimpse into Japanese wrestling. This really wasn't about TNA at all. And I tried to take it from a positive point of view that, for me personally, I have seen very little Japanese wrestling. I've seen basically a little bit of wrestling from Japan. I've seen a little bit of New Japan Pro Wrestling. Not much. So I wanted to try and take in what I could from it. I understand it's a third-rate promotion. So was TNA. They didn't even think TNA was nothing until it built up, to a certain extent, something people was interested in. So as much as people may want to shit on the Great Muta's Wrestle One promotion, you never know a promotion can actually turn into something good, even if it is third rate. Look at what we got in TNA. This is Jeff Jarrett's promotion. And essentially, it shouldn't be anything but shit, but people cared about it because it actually had something compelling. But we haven't been getting that from TNA. And I can understand Fool Killer's feelings about it. He still cares about the product, but it's so hard to care. But how do I feel about this review on this particular TNA Impact? It was not a bad show, but the ending truly let me down. Now let's get into the show. The opening with the Hardys versus Bromance. This is part of the process of bromance. They're supposed to job to a better team. They did job to a better team. And I'm not upset about that. Bromance isn't much there. And I'm alright with the Hardys moving on to the next stage. This was the preliminaries. Now they're going to the semifinals next week. Okay. The next thing I'm going to talk about that I'm upset about. And I shouldn't be upset, but I am upset. Originally, Rebel was supposed to face Angelina Love. That's not the part I'm upset about. I love me some Angelina Love. Rebel is some damn good-looking woman there. I mean, she's a beautiful woman. She is. I love me some Angelina Love. I love me some Love. But this isn't about Rebel or Angelina Love. I always said for Rebel, she's too green, and eventually she would job to Havoc in a very nasty, basically jobber, destructive match. Well, I almost was right. Rebel here jobbed for Havoc. She did. She basically let Havoc beat the living shit out of her. But this was about the returning Gail Kim, who's still injured. I'm actually alright with this. You know why? The way the knockouts have been, where they've never had anybody who had been so large of a threat that someone who was considered an underdog could actually have to fight really hard against. Let's be honest here. When was the last time you saw this? Awesome Kong was the only dominant woman we've ever had in the history of TNA. Unfortunately, I didn't see the product around that time. I've only seen old clips of it. I didn't have cable. I'm sorry. But you get my point of view. She's been the most dominant person before Havoc. And now seeing a Gail Kim having to fight her way up. And seeing this hard fight she had to have. And you could see she was getting her ass handed to her. That was actually pretty good. Yes, she still got some good shots in. Yes, she kicked Havoc in the ladies area. I'm actually hitting my stomach. She hit her between her legs almost. But you know what? I really am interested in seeing this. I want to see Gail Kim rise to the occasion. I want to see her be an underdog. But here's the problem that's really upsetting me. Why isn't Havoc allowed to talk? I've seen some clippets of her and snippets of her on other promotions, and she can actually talk. One of the things she needs to do is talk. I can understand if they're making it very sporadic. It'll make it very epic, because then it'll have meaning. But we don't see shit. I want to see this woman talk. I want to see her go, ah! I am going to get you, ah! Something like that. where her cleavage is showing and the viciousness in her face is showing how dominant she is. I said the cleavage first because she has a nice set of boobs. But seeing how powerful she is, how vicious she is, and how sexually feminine she is something we need. We're not getting that. We're just seeing her squash people, which is not bad, but we need more. Moving on to Bram. Now, I said when he started facing Abyss that he could be switching to be the successor of Abyss. Let's be honest. Abyss is no longer a hardcore monster. He just isn't. It's very rare you can actually see the true power of Abyss in TNA. You don't see it. Bram, the way he's been built, even though it's been sporadic, seeing him on TV has been actually very good. And I said that he was going to take over for Abyss, and he has. He mentioned how powerful he is over the Abyss. How he used Janice to ram it into his stomach and hearing all that slapping of flesh. That wasn't a bad promo he did before he dealt with Devon and they had their fight. He did very good. I'm actually very impressed how Bram is slowly getting over. He's not 100% over as a hardcore king, or the king of hardcore he wants to call himself, which he has the right to because he's proven it. Know how? They have the little fight. Kurt Angle says you're going to have a hardcore match with Devon. He's going to literally beat the shit out of you. But in the end, Bram does get to win even though Magnus helped him. And I have my moment. I have something to say about Magnus at the end of this review. It's something personal, but you get my point. Even though Magnus helped him, he still did the majority of the match on his own. And it's good. I'm very happy to see Bram still getting this rise as a hardcore champion. A hardcore destructive heel. We need one. You don't always have to be a big man to be destructive, as long as you're built properly. Now, Samoa Joe and Low Ki versus Shaw and Gunner. Now, we have been wondering what the fuck are they doing with Gunner and Shaw. We've barely seen anything of it. The build with Brittany in this entire storyline has not been that good at all. I mean, Brittany's a damn hot looking woman. But the way they built her, and I didn't even recognize Brittany at first when she started acting that crazy bitch type of woman that wants a crazy guy like a Samuel Shaw. I thought she was somebody else. Not until I could see and really understand they wanted to introduce Brittany to give them a divide. But I really thought that this was going to be Gunner turning back into a heel and really bringing out the Shaw character as a face with Brittany by his side, because you could say you could have a flip of personalities, that Gunner is acting really crazy, he's been angry, he's been uncontrollable, and Shaw has been the voice of reason. But instead, they did Shaw back to the way he was. This time he has a woman on his side. The video backstage wasn't 100% bad, but it was a mixed message, which was okay. You needed to do a mixed message. You wanted to get Brittany and Shaw over his heels. And at the end of the match, where basically Brittany grabs the legs of a Gunner and Gunner gives a good smack on the side of her head saying, "What the fuck you doing, woman?" In the end, Gunner loses, is in the ring with her. Shaw comes in, starts cracking the whip on his ass with that chair. And the thing that gets me the best was the rollabout with Shaw and Brittany. Literally rolling over Gunner like, we don't give a fuck. We're going to start kissing. I'm going to let him put him thing inside me on top of you, bitch. That's what Brittany's basically kind of giving me. Saying, I'm jumping on my man. We're going to roll on the floor. I want him to whip it out and stick it in me while I roll on top of you, bitch. Gunner, you're a bitch. That's what I was getting. Don't mean to say bitch so much. It's not a nice word to say, so I apologize. But this is the type of thing that you're getting from this. It's actually refreshing to see this. We don't usually see something like this. The last time I saw something like this that was really relevant was Edge. Edge and Lita back in the late 2000s when they did something not exactly like that. They rolled over somebody, but just rolling around in the ring. And I'm not talking about Eli and ODB. It's not the same. They just don't give the same type of feel of just evil and sadistic. These two do. And I'm alright with that. But I gotta admit, having Gunner stay as a face and Shaw going back as a heel, I don't know if this is going to play out very well as they continue progressing it, if they do. Now, MVP and King versus Sarge and Anderson. Both video packages were not too bad. With King and MVP and Sarge and Anderson, they weren't too bad. I think Sarge and Anderson felt more relevant because they're both former military officers. That's how guys kind of psych each other up. You guys can tell me below if I'm wrong, if it's something they really need to do. It felt a little more relevant than MVP and King when they were with Lashley. It just felt a little better. And I gotta say this, the match was not that bad. It was, majority of the work was done by Anderson. That's the wisest thing to do. Limit the amount of time that Chris Melendez has in the ring, because with that prosthetic on his leg, he still looks very clumsy and awkward in the ring. I'm not saying he's not a decent wrestler. Just because of the motions and the way the leg locks and does not lock makes it really awkward. And I have to say that seeing that the Sarge actually shoves MVP away from the target, which was Anderson, was actually a wise thing to do. It actually gave a lot of people a certain type of feel in that Sands Casino. It did. It did the job it needed to do. Even though King and MVP won it, you still got Anderson and Melendez still over his faces, which was very good. And I have no problem with that. Now, the contract signing. Actually, no. This got to be left for last because it makes the most perfect sense. Tyrus and EC3 versus Eli and Spud. I'm going to say this. People who loved Bad Influence, and I miss them. Christopher Daniels and Kazarian were so good as a team. They could play off each other. They were so entertaining. We had something similar when it came to Spud and EC3. They were so funny. Now that they split them off, I'm sure a lot of people are not fond of that. But you can't deny that Spud is so over with the crowd. The people love Spud. Spuddy! Spuddy! You could see most of the people screaming that in the crowd during the match. Seeing Spud get such a big build-up by EC3 before it started saying you're nothing but a loser was actually really good. Did I actually want to see it now? No. I'm going to be honest here. I did not want to see Rockstar Spud face EC3 in a tag match with Tyrus. I'm sorry. I didn't want to see it now. I didn't want to see him get squashed so soon. I would have loved to have a couple of weeks, maybe a month build up to this. It would have been more of a bigger payout. Because then it would have given more relevance to this. But I won't deny that they didn't have a great build. I mean, people scream for Spud, and Spud is still going to be over. They're going to want to see Spud beat the shit out of EC3 and smack the living shit out of him. It was well done. But still, I wouldn't want to see it now. It's not the right time. I didn't want to see it now. But it did happen. So, the last thing I'm going to talk about is the contract signing. And as I said earlier in this video review, I was not fond of it. It felt irrelevant. It felt empty. We're getting a build-up from Kurt Angle that something special is going to happen. Something monumental. I was thinking maybe one of them was going to be fired. One of them was going to be barred from ever trying to get the title again. Maybe it was going to be a steel cage match. A Full Metal Mayhem match, maybe. Maybe this was going to be left for something special. But Angle being the special guest referee for the match? Seriously? I know that Angle's been re-signed back to TNA. He's staying, and they made a big brouhaha about it. But let's be honest here, and I agree with the Sleg Daddy. He said it himself, and I agree. Cannot take away anything Kurt Angle's done for the ring of TNA, done for WWE, done for pro wrestling. His attitude outside the ring is shitty. He can be an asshole. But I am never going to deny how much he's done for the business. And that he really tried his best to build up TNA. He believed, and I saw the video, or it's an old video that I remember seeing him talk about the one who would not be named, heading to TNA because he was getting burnt out because he was working so much in WWE. He was literally almost a top star there. That was before John Cena took over, and I will be doing a debate of the week on him. That's next. But I can understand him going somewhere where he felt like he could be doing something great. And it's not a bad thing for him to be re-signed. He's not a bad character. He's a good wrestler. If he really straightened himself out with the drinking, I'm alright with that. But say that he is the most relevant thing there as a special guest referee? Are you serious? I'm sorry. I'm not. I wanted to keep him as the executive general manager of TNA. He was doing such a good job. The thing is that he didn't speak often. Whenever he did speak, it felt relevant. He came out during the right times that was necessary for him to really make the show something special. But now with this, that means he's going back into action again. And I don't feel really good about that right now. Even if it's not going to happen for another 3 or 4 months. Seeing this is not interesting. I would have liked to see one of them not get another shot until next year. Maybe when they do another Bound for Glory series, 2015. I would have liked to see them do a steel cage match between Lashley and Rude. And everyone is barred. Hell, a Full Metal Mayhem match. I don't care. Something other than Kurt Angle being the special guest referee. Now, if it was Austin who is the special guest referee, that would be something special. Because as an enforcer, he knows how to do the business right. But we don't have that. So the ending of the show for me felt flat. 100% flat. I didn't give a damn. And the tag team tournament is actually very good. I'm actually alright with it, even though it's not one of the best builds for it. It's okay. I'm alright seeing Samuel Shaw dealing with Gunner now that he's working with Brittany. I don't know how far they're going to go with it, but it's okay. When we saw what happened with the Wolves, with Davey Richard talking with Storm, and now he's talking to Manic. Could Davey Richard turn and be part of the evolution of the Storm? Those are good things. But at the end of this, But that's just my opinion. I'd like to hear yours. So I hope you enjoyed the Zane view. Please give me a comment below. How do you feel about the ending of the show? And do you think Kurt Angle's actually going back into action the next couple of months because of this? I will be getting my next debate of the week out as soon as possible. And it will be about John Cena and the loss of one match. And I know it's been talked about so many times, but I think it needs to be stated. Have a good evening. See ya!